At the turn of the millennium, BBC released a survey of the most impactful physicists of all time. Number 3 on that list, behind Einstein and Isaac Newton, was James Clerk Maxwell. He outranks names like Galileo and Schrödinger, yet many have never heard of Maxwell or his work, which predicates everything from the electrical turbines in the Hoover Dam to the servo motors in the smallest drones. My name is Cole Gibbs, and this is the story of James Clerk Maxwell. Baby James was born to 2 loving parents in Edinburgh, Scotland in 1831. His father wrote about his constant curiosity. At the age of 3, his mother noted his investigative nature, pointing out how he would tinker with locks and keys. It became clear to his parents that James showed much potential for academics, so his father made the decision in 1841 to place him in the Honourable Edinburgh Academy. Maxwell went on to spend the rest of his life in academia, holding prestigious positions at various universities across Britain. A particular area that fascinated Maxwell was light. In 1861, Maxwell held a lecture to demonstrate that the human eye perceived 3 primary colors. During the lecture, he created the very first color photograph of a cloth bow. There was an issue with the material that captivated red light, so the reds in the image are very muted. But the proof of concept was there, and the field of photography bloomed into living color. Today, we have the Maxwell discs, a color experiment where tops with primary colors are spun and the human eye observes the resulting perceived color. But by far, Maxwell's most impactful and far-reaching work in the field of physics is known simply as Maxwell's equations. When originally published, the mathematics of the day required 20 full differential equations. Decades after Maxwell's death, PDEs, or partial differential equations, were discovered, and Maxwell's 20 differential equations were succinctly reduced to 4 elegant PDEs, known today as Maxwell's equations of electromagnetism. The monolithic quality of this discovery is difficult to the layperson, which is most likely the reason that Maxwell's name is not nearly as popular as other physicists. Essentially, before Maxwell's equations, our understanding of the natural world was purely mechanical. Only things like simple machines, gears, belts, and other mechanisms were used. The only way of practically powering a machine was manpower, animal power, steam, or gunpowder. No batteries, no electric turbines, and certainly no electric motors. Through Maxwell's equations, we escaped a purely candle-lit world. And in the same decade as the US Civil War, all the physics required to invent electronics had been discovered. Maxwell's work to understand the natural world will undoubtedly echo for the rest of human history. His discoveries are nothing short of irreversible. However, it can oftentimes be tempting to discount the humanity of profoundly gifted scientific minds. There is much more to the man of Maxwell than electromagnetics and math. For starters, Maxwell wasn't just a scholar of the natural world, he indulged himself in the world of poetry and song. His friend, Lewis Campbell, published a book of his poems in 1882. Sometimes he would sing his poems, accompanying himself on a guitar. A sort of neo-transcendentalist, Maxwell would oftentimes frustrate his colleagues with his antics. In a letter, Maxwell comments, quote, "No jokes of any kind are understood here. I have not made one for 2 months, and if I feel one coming, I shall bite my tongue." But despite his quirks, he made many friends in academia, and notably, most of them were students of theology, not science. A friend wrote of Maxwell, quote, "Among his friends, he was the most genial and amusing of companions, the propounder of many a strange theory." Maxwell's curiosity often overstepped that which science is equipped to answer, and he was a notable student and teacher of philosophy. He was very passionate about theology, and his knowledge of the Bible was unmatched. A famous philosophical conjecture of his is that, because atoms are identical in nature from one to the next, there is an implied manufacturedness of the natural world, which implies a manufacturer. This was a bold claim for an academic official to make, especially since Darwin's Origin of Species had been released just a year prior to this claim. Maxwell's faith became most notable towards the final years of his life. He was diagnosed with abdominal cancer, the same illness that took his mother, and at the same age. In a letter containing some of his final words, he writes, quote, "I have been thinking how very gently I have been always dealt with. I have never had a violent shove all my life. The only desire which I can have is, like David, to serve my own generation by the will of God, and then fall asleep." On November 5th, 1879, James Clerk Maxwell fell asleep for the last time. And just hours before that, on November 4th, Thomas Edison filed a patent for the electric light bulb. Maxwell's legacy was shaping the modern world before his casket was even laid into the ground.